Jazz hands, jazz hands, jazz hands.
We're live now. Are we good? All right.
Jazz hands.
While we're waiting for the amount of people to fill this in, I'm going to go ahead and push play on this little blue screen that we are sharing in the middle here to really get the vibe set. It's not going to do justice to the energy that Sharath and Parker are about to bring, but we're going to try. All right. Let's kick this off in style. Technically speaking style. I love all the dancing support we're getting. If y'all wanted to turn your cameras on as well in the audience and dance along at any point, Sharath and Parker may give you the opportunity for that too. So just be aware. But you see, there we go. We've already got comments happening in the chat on this. This is good energy so far. Today's session is not being presented by me, thankfully. I'm just kicking this thing off. And it's going to be Sharath leading the way. Parker's here for moral and comedic relief, moral support, comedic relief. And then we're going to be, doing a demo as well later on. And of course, as always, we're doing a giveaway, so stay tuned for details on that. But these are the two gentlemen leading the way today. Big thanks to them for stepping in and presenting on this really cool topic. Before we get to that topic and hand over the steering wheel here, our housekeeping rules. As always, we are big on the term unwebinar because we've all kind of been to the burnout phase of webinars, as 2020 peaked and beyond. We were just like, oh, okay, this is the new way we're all getting together. We're all doing webinars. Well, this is not the regular webinar. Webinars have their place. They have very good info, good content in them. This is meant to be a lot more conversational, right? This is meant to be a lot more back and forth, not us just talking at you and presenting you with info. Again, can be good. In this case, we're going to demo, but we really want this to be back and forth. We want this to be conversational. We want you all to get involved as much as you are comfortable with. So with that, our unrules of engagement, if you want to chime in during the presentation afterwards and vocally ask a question, throw that hand up in Teams and we will unmute you, let you ask the question. We, again, really encourage the back and forth. So raise that hand when a question comes up. Of course, you can put questions in chat at any time. You've got people like myself and Michael Tressler and others lurking in the background, answering those questions as best we can, or punting off responsibility to someone else for those answers where we can't. Video, we strongly encourage you, if you are comfortable, to flip that camera on. Make this as if we were all in a room together, learning something, seeing each other's bright, beautiful, smiling faces. And then, like I said, we'll unmute the mic if you raise your hand. But it's good to see y'all. Thanks for turning those mics on. This is great. And then last, but certainly not least, after the event, not during the event, we will be gathering up our attendance report, right? So those of you awesome people that showed up and didn't just register, you will be eligible for the drawing for the devices. Now, we changed up to the devices this time. We've been giving away some PanaCast 20s, some of the new Evolve 2 65 Flex, and the Evolve 2 Buds. Today, we're switching over to the Speak 275, which is not just certified for Teams and Zoom, but it's certified for Teams Rooms. It is that larger, brand new Speak variant. And the original, the OG PanaCast 180 degrees, beautiful device. So this is quite a snag today. But thank you for being here. Keep an eye on the email that you registered with because that is where we will be sending confirmation if you won. With that, the topic at hand today is embracing BYOD and wireless collaboration in your company. This was the brainchild of Mr. Sharath himself, because a lot of questions come through when we're talking to customers about where BYOD fits into the solution we're talking about. So we're going to talk about all the different ways that it can fit in with various different partners here. Before I hand over things to Sharath and Parker, a quick reminder, if you take this QR code or just go out to jabra.com/technically speaking, I'm sure someone's about to pop that in the chat. that is our landing page for the Technically Speaking on Webinar series. You can see what's coming up so that you can get registered, add that to your calendar. You also can see previous sessions. So if you heard about how amazing the session was back in January, delivered by Eric Taylor, you can go back and watch that. If you want to catch up on what we talked about with Jabra Plus for admins back in November, you can watch that. All that goodness is there. So head on out there, watch what you missed, catch up on what you don't yet have on your calendar. And this is where you want to kind of keep bookmarked, right? This is where all this stuff is going to be updated and changed on a regular basis. So pay attention to that URL. With that, Sharath, please take over presenting and take the reins.
All right. Hey, everybody. So what we're going to first do is if you haven't met me, we're going to do some introductions. But I think for introductions, I'm a old school NBA fan. So I want to make sure we add some flair to this as we do it. So I'm going to throw in my presenter voice and get from there. So introducing the 6'4" ginger of the West, the Jabra Solutions Architect and dog entertainer. He makes so much money that he does have 2 dogs, not just one. Parker Dunbar.
Thank you. Thank you. Your kindness is much appreciated. It was a lot easier to have 2 dogs in Florida. It's a lot harder to have 2 dogs in Silicon Valley.
This was probably the best intro in Technically Speaking history to date. So you've now put that bar way up there, Sharath.
And now, coming in at a whopping 5'7" in the suburbs of New Jersey, the social media phenom within his personal family, because no one else really cares outside of that, Sharath Abraham. And this just in, he doesn't make as much money as Parker because he now has a daughter who takes all of his money. So, first of all, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. I know time is money and time is value. And I just want to make sure that we utilize our whole time today. So the subject that we're kind of bringing into the mix, obviously, is BYOD. But I think before we get started, hey, Parker, you used to work at a company before Jabra, right?
Sharath, I'm going to let you in on a little secret that you didn't see in the green room.
Oh, is that a
But yes, I did happen to work at one of these companies before joining Jabra.
Okay, got it. And I used to work at Crestron, and BYOD as a solution wasn't new to us. It was something that's normal. And the funny thing is, we had a comment on LinkedIn that somebody said, "I love BYOX." So now I'm like, wait, what does that all mean? So can you, from your experience, pretend I am your client and explain to me what BYOD means?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. So BYOD, we call that bring your own device. And when I was talking about BYOD to customers, or when I think about BYOD, what I'm really focused on is getting content from a little screen to a big screen. So whether that's my laptop in a meeting room or my phone or my tablet, whatever I'm doing, it's about taking that small screen content and getting it up onto that larger screen so that I can share it with my colleagues or with whoever's there physically present with me at that location.
Now, I guess from an end user experience, because that's the name of the game here, before COVID all happened, everyone used to come into the office, and the end user experience is that they would use the device that they're most comfortable with, which is the device that they use every day. But COVID happened, a lot of stuff has changed, and now we have this new term under the BYOX category called BYOM. Parker, what does the M stand for?
All right, so the M there is for meetings. We're bringing our own meeting now. We're not just bringing our device. So it's combining or building on that, getting your content from the small screen to the big screen, but adding the video conferencing element, because now it's not just about the folks who are there in the office. It's also about the people who are joining remotely. And so you want to make sure that whether you're in the office or joining remotely, you can see and be seen and hear and be heard, because that's what you need to get your meeting going. I mean, an agenda helps too, content helps too. Those things are kind of secondary. But at the end of the day, you know, if you can't hear someone or see them, your agenda is not going to get you so far.
Okay, so you touched upon a couple of things. You said be seen and be heard. So why is that important now? Is it the fact that 80% of all virtual meetings in our latest Jabra research that you can all access is virtual? So the idea behind that is before, a lot of collaboration happened in the office, and bring your own device just meant collaborating in the room and sharing your content and sharing an Excel sheet or sharing a PowerPoint and going over that now. But the way we work has significantly changed, and now there's always someone that's joining virtually, just like everybody is doing on this call. So now bring your own meeting is a term that can be used or will be used going into 2024. And then I think going into the next conversation piece, Parker, is
I think so.
wireless.
And I've got to say, before we go off the topic of BYOD and BYOF, because this is near and dear to me, and I'm trying to will it to be a thing into the world, but you might not hear BYOD and BYOM used in industry conversations with the same distinction that we're making here. So if you hear someone who's just casually talking about BYOD in an environment, I think that's a great opportunity for a qualifying question or follow-up question. You know, what does that experience look like to you? Because
What? Experience? Did you just say
experience.
experience? Is that the name of the game here? Shouldn't I just buy the most expensive things out there and all the software and technologies and throw it into a room? Isn't that what the name of the game is?
Hey, you know, there's a lot of stuff on the market. You could buy it all and put it into a room, and you might be able to get one IT admin to understand how it all works. But when you're trying to explain to the administrative assistant who starts meetings for executives, or to the engineers who think that they know everything and just come into the room and start tearing it apart when it doesn't do what they thought it would do, instead of asking for help, you know, that's where that experience piece comes into play. So you want to make sure you are balancing capabilities, which you can always add capabilities, with an experience that people can actually use.
Okay, point of order. Engineers do know everything, so take that back. Anyways, so experience.
I was on too many calls where we always bagged on, you know, accounting or HR, and I had to start,
All right.
representing for
I'll
the other
accept
parts
that
of the
today.
org.
I'll accept that today. So BYOD, we're really talking about experience for end users, but does that maybe offer opportunities for the experience to be enhanced after by choosing Teams or Zoom or anything like that? So the idea behind it is a majority of use cases that we see out there, everyone's going Teams, Zoom, Google, right? So where does BYOD kind of fit into that mix, Parker? Like shouldn't I just choose Teams or Zoom? Like, isn't that the case?
I mean, for a lot of organizations, you might have a primary conferencing platform that you use, and for your internal meetings, that might make up 75 or 80% of your meetings. But when you're talking to an external customer, when you're talking to a vendor, when you have something impromptu, or you're invited to a webinar, it might not be on one of those platforms. And so if your primary concern is designing a room that can be used for all those different types of meetings, that's when these kind of solutions might start to become a little bit more attractive. That would be that keying in, I think, a little bit of information if you're really focused on having that much flexibility, or as much as you can offer.
Okay, that makes sense. So we're not going to deep dive into BYOD because I feel like the audience we have understands where that fits into play. But I want to make sure in today's call, everyone understands this new term, or at least I think is a new term within the last couple of years, wireless conferencing, right? So when we're talking about wireless conferencing, does the end user experience change from the BYOD experience? How is that different?
I would say, yeah, there's a little bit of change. And the reason for that are some technical requirements, because BYOD was really, you know, the connection between the device and the display. But now when we want to start incorporating camera, microphone, and speaker, we have an audio and video path that needs to be bi-directional and needs to be damn near real time in order for you to have a good meeting experience, you know.
I think before we go to the meeting experience,
yeah.
Right? BYOD. I'm a user. I walk into the space. I want to share my screen. I'm going to plug in HDMI. My content is now on the big screen. So with wireless conferencing, we're now showcasing, or just bring your own meeting, you're displaying the image on the screen wirelessly. So that's the first user experience, is you're now taking away the cables from in the room, because some clients like to spend $10,000 on a nice marble table for their meeting rooms, right? They just don't have enough money left over for technology, which is kind of true in a lot of cases. We've all been there. But at the first idea of end user experiences, the cables are going away and we're relying on a wireless connection to present. But in wireless conferencing, the idea is you're also wirelessly connecting to your camera, speaker, and microphone to be utilized in a meeting. Is that correct? Is that a good statement?
Absolutely. And I think you really keyed in on the important distinction there. We're not just replacing that HDMI cable, we're also replacing that USB connection to the peripheral here with that wireless conferencing piece. Now, you might, have an environment where you're using USB-C and you've got a dock, you're already combining, but, we'll put that aside for now. We'll get to that later in the technical part.
Got it. So I guess outside of those two advantages, right? We're talking about advantage of wirelessly sharing your content from your laptop or your iPad or anything to the screen, wirelessly connecting to a camera, mic, and speakerphone to now have a wireless meeting. What are some other advantages that are kind of packaged in this solution that you think everyone on the call should be aware of?
So, outside of that flexibility, because now if you don't have a cable, you can be kind of anywhere in the room. There's not just a dedicated spot that the person who's running the meeting has to sit in. You've also got this opening to new experiences outside of just that moment of conferencing. So when somebody walks into the room, what's up on the display? These wireless conferencing products give you the opportunity to start incorporating other things on that display so that when the conference room isn't being used for conferencing, you can have digital signage. So you think about sort of non-traditional spaces. Whoa, I know. I jumped to the bottom and I just casually threw it. I casually threw it in there.
Casually throw in digital signage. This is a wireless conferencing and BYOD untraditional webinar, Parker. What is digital signage for the people that don't know that? Because
I was gonna say, so let's not go too far down that rabbit hole because we could have a whole other webinar on it. But if we're talking about when you walk into the room, if you don't have digital signage, you might just have a static image, you might have some rotating pictures, you might see a calendar. With digital signage, now that display can be showing announcements, it can be sharing a video, it can be kind of the sky's the limit. There's all kinds of platforms out there for digital signage content management. So think about a lobby space. You wouldn't have a display in a lobby that you had a cable hanging off of for somebody to walk in and plug in. Well, you might have a digital signage player, but now with these wireless devices, that same display could have that digital signage content. And when your visitor walks in and you've got sort of the, what's going on, you could even share some content onto that display so that you can, sort of welcome them, give them an idea of what they're going to go through, have that little introductory moment. So there's an opportunity there to build on user experience.
So maybe that's another webinar for next couple of months that we get into deeply. So now we kind of talked about BYOD, what that means, BYOM, what that stands for, which can go into the coincide of the BYOX world or bring your own anything really. But we're also honing in on the fact that wireless conferencing is a term that coincides with both of those, and that we should all be aware of how does that fit into the landscape of providing a user experience that should feel like it's seamless. Now, caveat everybody, I said should because there's a lot of pros and cons about the solution that we're going to go into. But before we get into that, out of curiosity, have you been in a meeting where someone was joining via a wireless conference meeting, or have you used one, and did you even realize it? I'm just really curious if this is something new for everyone in the call, or if this is something that is, just like something they've used every single day, right? So behind that, Parker, can you tell us a little bit, while they're answering the questions, we look like a couple more responses. While that's coming in, Parker, can you tell us about why you love working with me?
Oh, Sharath, there are so many reasons that I love working with you. One, your TikTok account is fire, and that's great. I love that. Number two, you're great at doing videos, which when I'm the only person, it's me and Josh that gets boring. So nice to have a little, other choices there. And third thing is you're over in New York. No, that's fine. Hey, we haven't given you any action items on this call, Josh. So just for now, I think you should be kind of thrilled with this. Man, I love the engagement we've got on the poll. Have you been watching this, Sharath, in real
Yeah.
time?
So we have 44 responses. Looks like yes all the time, 30%. No, I'm not sure, 25, and sometimes 45. So it looks like the audience we have has a little bit understanding of it. So, keep answering those questions. We got 80 participants in here, but 48 responses. What we're gonna do is go and coincide to the pros and cons. We'll let you finish up or answer. I'm just gonna close this down. 50. So we're about 30% yes, 44% sometimes, and 25% no. So good. 25%, we're gonna give you some more information around that, and sometimes we're gonna give you more information. So before we get into the technical, yeah.
George in the chat asked the question, what speaker are you using right now?
I'm using the P50 that I have. So I have a what I would say a wall of P50s in my lab at home, and that's what I am using today. As a solutions consultant, it's weary upon me to make sure everything is tested and all that good stuff. So I found a wonderful mount on Amazon and put all the P50s that they would give me on it. But yeah, there is room for more. So maybe next. I do have another mount to add more. I just need to get more network ports. But after we, coming back to the conversation, I want to make sure there's some pros and cons that we need to be aware of when talking about wireless conferencing. So, Parker, since your previous job was working at one of these companies, I'm going to let you talk about the cons, okay? And then I will chime in because I'm your sales guy and you're my sales engineer. Go ahead.
I thought you were just going to be like, I'll take the pros, and you just, politely dump all over this field.
We're doing a twist, buddy. This is all you. Put your screen beam hat on, all right? What are some cons when we're discussing wireless conferencing? Can you kind of let us? Yeah.
I think I'm really uniquely qualified to answer this because I worked on the support side at ScreenBeam, so I got to hear about cons when people experienced cons. I got it firsthand. I can tell you that a lot of those cons really boiled down to those initial connectivity and setup requirements. So these wireless conferencing devices, these are often, but not always, network joined devices. And now that you have a device on the network, you're trying to communicate over the network, you've got to worry about perhaps whether devices are on the same subnet. What kind of ports are they using to communicate to each other? Are they using multicast traffic where they have to be on the same subnet? Are they using unicast traffic where they don't? Do you have to worry about the firewall on the end user's laptop? These are pieces of information that your wireless conferencing vendors out there in the world know that you need to have to be successful. So for all of those different vendors, you go to their support page, they will tell you what port ranges need to be open. They'll give you that information. But it's about getting it at the right time so that you have a good experience the first time somebody tries to use the device. And I would always tell people the first device is going to be the hardest to set up because it's going to be the one where we have to figure out how many of these different things are coming up, because a lot of the time I know in this space, if you're the person who's installing the device and trying to bring up the system, you may not be the person who has access to changing ports on the network, changing rules in the firewall.
It sounds like, because I've been in the AV industry for a bit, that there should be some proper planning before choosing a solution as a wireless conferencing device, meaning questions should arise around initial connectivity requirements, security concerns, compatibility issues, and my favorite term for 2024 and the future, change management, right? Because the learning curve is a big piece of the puzzle here. I know it's not too technical, but change management is something everyone should be concerned about or understand when you're thinking about utilizing a wireless conferencing product, because it is a literal change of how people have been used to working. So how do you manage that, right? And I think that's where you utilize the relationships with the vendors that provide these solutions, but also the relationships we have. Now, I like to caveat at this point that we are not the experts, other than Parker with ScreenBeam, when it comes to these wireless conferencing solutions. But Parker,
and I am no longer the expert, so please, those questions there are people very qualified to answer who are still learning about what the latest and greatest nuances are. I've been out of that arena for a little bit now, and before before we go pros, I just wanted to give a shout out to Debbie, who in chat asked about wireless and security, and here we have it right on our list. Security was always a topic that came up. Security can be experienced in a number of different ways. When we talk about a wireless connection, now all of a sudden there's this physical layer of getting content onto the screen, whether that requires you to be on a network for discovery or in proximity to the display, or having a code show up on the display to make sure that you are supposed to be connecting, you're not just from outside, but also then the protocols that are used on the devices when they're sharing that content to make sure that somebody who's, just in the area isn't able to, technically speaking, sniff some packets that are in the air to see what's going on. I know.
Yeah.
So,
you're getting deep there, Parker. Packet sniffing and stuff. Whoa. All right. So I think that's a good caveat. We talked about the cons, right? I think all the cons can be alleviated by making sure everything is properly planned and working with the wireless conferencing vendors, and also working with them to provide solutions for training your workforce, right? Because I know from my past experience, a lot of these companies already have training materials created, and it just needs to be kind of customized for your particular client. So I think one lesson that's not technical here is work with your vendors when it comes to change management, because 9 times out of 10, they already have the information that you can use for your users to learn, and you can put it up on the internet. It's not a big haul. So that's the cons. What are some pros, right? So what are some good things about wireless conferencing?
what are some good things about that from a category perspective? So, I think first and foremost, we've already said it, there's this flexibility from being able to use that meeting room hardware for all of these different types of meetings that might come up for a user over the course of the day, and to be able to do them back to back to back on your own device. So you have your calendar. It's not like you're inviting another resource. So it can certainly be a better experience if you have a lot of that meeting switching. We talked already about kind of like physical infrastructure. Sometimes it's literally cheaper to install one of these wireless devices than to run a cable, into the wall, through the ceiling, maybe through the floor, back into the, that there can be a ton of cost there. And I said it earlier, I'll say it again. When you look at these devices, they tend to be very responsive to the user experience, and taking that beyond just the meeting itself, but thinking a little bit holistically about other things that happen in the room. How can we make the meeting experience smoother? I'm already going back to royal weeing myself into into this category. In fact, am not part of that we anymore.
No, I get it. So I guess the pros is it really depends on what you as a customer or client are looking to do for user experience in the space, right? And I think this gives you the added flexibility for different spaces that you might have. I think in this 2024 year, the conversation is return to office, and the conversation about facilities management and everyone else is how do we get people back into the office to make that experience much better than what they're doing at home, right? Because if we think about it, my home office is better than half of the live offices out there in New York City. So what kind of experience are we creating within the office to just let people do their work, right? So what that means is if I'm a finance guy, I just want to do my finance work and not worry about the technology and just collaborate when I'm in the office. So user experience is a big key, and I want everyone on the call to understand that that is what we are also kind of pushing towards as well from a Jabra perspective. Now, there are a couple of companies out there that do wireless conferencing, but the companies that we work with are specifically something that we do directly, which Parker, now that's your job at Jabra now, right? Like
I was gonna say, literally one of my many hats at Jabra here is I work on the technical side with our wireless conferencing device partners to make sure that when they have updates or when we have updates that we're checking them because we don't want to make every integrator, reseller, and end user responsible for making sure that one firmware doesn't break a feature that used to be working. So we have that regular testing program set up. We've got a couple of friends that we invited from these different partners who are here. And I let them know ahead of time. I told them, hey, you guys are welcome to answer questions in the chat. Please disclaimer yourself as being from a vendor. You know, I don't want you to see a message pop up and then be like, oh, wow, so insightful, so, so unbiased. And shout out to Johan for introducing himself right here in the chat too.
Yeah,
so
man.
as questions come up, they're not always going to be questions that maybe we are most qualified to answer. So we want to be able to direct you to the right resources.
Yeah, so I just want everyone on the call to understand that the companies that you see on the screen are the companies that we partnered with and work with closely on the engineering standpoint to make sure that if you do buy a Airtame, Barco, Air Media Immersive, or ScreenBeam, those devices have been tested by us internally, and we have ongoing communication within our teams, right? So there might be other wireless conferencing products out there, but on a Jabra standpoint, these are the companies that we partner with to make sure that when you use a Jabra device, which we'll get into next, it works as it's intended to. So, if you want to screenshot this list or follow up with us after, we could definitely do that.
Now, Sharath, I know I say this on every single call that I am on at Jabra, but in addition to screenshotting this random slide in a PowerPoint presentation, we in fact have a published on our public website list of the approved and tested peripherals, including wireless conferencing devices. So make sure you're checking that out. We do try to maintain that as we retest firmware to be able to give you all that versioning information. Our partners do that kind of thing too. But again, I'm just throwing it out there that screenshotting a PowerPoint slide is not the only way to find this information. We don't want it to be hard for you to access.
That is the standard way for everybody, Parker.
Okay. Sorry.
Pictures from our phones of information we want to never access for the rest of our lives. Okay, we are going to inundate our photo gallery with screenshots of PowerPoints and never reference them ever again until that one time, Parker. That is what we do as professionals. Now, moving on. We've been talking a lot about non-Jabra stuff, and this is the Jabra webinar, right? So where does Jabra fit into this conversation? It's easy. You use our P50 and you connect USB, right, Parker? It's easy, right? Parker, say it's easy.
This is the thing.
This
part is easy. This part is easy. This is like I was too much in that world for too long. I put in the supported *** asterisk.
Way to change my one PowerPoint slide with your political supported asterisk word. Thanks, right? Parker. All right. So
I just have to make sure if things come through and I was there before they were sent out that.
All right. So the idea is essentially you use the USB cable a PanaCast P50 comes with and connect it to any supported wireless conferencing product, and you're good to go. So moving on, what does that look like in a room? And everyone, this slide was created by Parker, right, and not by me. I just want to kind of clear the air about.
So if you love it, great.
Mine would have been prettier.
If you don't,
okay?
Yeah, Sharath would have been prettier for sure. But here are the kind of key points that I wanted to make sure were understood here, because I didn't, we thought about, do we make one for each partner? We didn't want to get too, in the weeds there, because they all have their own version of this diagram with a lot more details that call out their specific and unique requirements. But big picture, like we said on the last slide, the Jabra device is USB connected to the wireless conferencing product. That thing is what's connected to the display. You tend to have a network connection from that device, whether that network connection is just being used for management or whether it's also being used for some of that BYOD, BYOM experience. It's going to vary from vendor to vendor. You might also network connect your P50 so that you can manage your PanaCast 50 with Jabra Express. This is something that's never been asked for. No, definitely didn't come up on a call earlier today where our own Eric Taylor was saying, oh, wait, customer installed the P50, connected it via USB. They wired it in really, really nicely, so that everything is very finished and complete. And they go, oh, but we forgot to configure the P50 to connect to the network to talk to the management server. And we don't want to unplug the cable because it's just so well. So So make sure you're doing that. You can check out our deployment guide for Jabra Express. Jabra Plus coming soon. You saw that webinar if you joined 2 months ago, right?
I guess for everyone that has never heard about either of those platforms and you're joining for the first time, Jabra Express is our management platform that can be utilized for all of our headsets and our PanaCast-50, but we introduced our new solution, which is a web-based platform called Jabra Plus. So if you want to learn more about that, you can access those videos for our previous webinars to learn more about our Jabra Plus management software that is slated to come out this year. So the idea behind Parker's statement is think about everything that you need to do before you install it on the wall. Question, how does Jabra Express compare to Jabra Direct? So
man, I would be more than happy, because I happened to contribute very heavily to a document that tried to put all of these terms into
Scott,
an
there
easy
you go.
to
Direct answer
digest
from
piece.
the person that created the document. Go ahead.
So Jabra Direct is a piece of client software. It could run on a Windows laptop or a Mac, and that's what you would use to configure an individual PanaCast-50. When you sign up for Jabra Express, which is a cloud service, you go to the website, you register for Jabra Express, you create your tenant. Now you want to start managing your PanaCast-50 in Jabra Express. You can download what we call an Express package. That Express package is a special version of Jabra Direct that you got while you were signed into Express, that when you run through the installer and then you put that onto a computer, that P50 talking to that Jabra Express package, which naming convention could be better there, is going to show up in Jabra Express in the cloud. So that's kind of Direct is the piece that lives on the client, and it may or may not be connected to Express, which just an X.
Cool.
Very cool.
Good explanation. I think another question that came in, which I don't want, does a glass office room affect room speakers for standard conference room? And looks like Debbie answered as well as an interior designer. We have a personal interior designer. Shout out to Debbie. So yeah, if you have a glass wall, there's a thing called reflections and reverberations where the sound will bounce off and kind of come back and cause unwanted echo noise in the area. So the idea behind it is you try to get as much you can in the room about sound absorption. But these days, if you work with interior designers such as Debbie Rogers, who commented, they can help and figure out how to utilize the space and add different things like plants or sounds or sound absorbing tiles to make the sound experience better. But yeah, glass does affect the sound. Was there a raised hand? Did I miss that? I don't know if I missed a raised hand. If not,
I didn't see one, but I was on such a roll recently I could have right on past it. So
okay, cool. So the idea behind where does Jabra fit in is make sure that before you before you figure out how to install the product on the wall, configure the device before doing that to how you intend to use the camera, speaker, microphone sections, then close the wall up and do everything else after. So that's your recommendation, correct, Parker?
Yeah, it is. And this is a little bit of that technical nuance there. When you're using these different wireless conferencing devices, while it kind of feels like as an end user, it's like I plug the cable in wirelessly, it's just not quite the same at a technical level. Mm-hmm. So we can't carry that configuration data communication, put a little right now asterisk there, but don't, not short term right now. But from an experience perspective, yeah, like Sharath said, configure first, then plug in.
Cool. So now going back to the partners that we work with when it comes to the wireless conferencing solutions, there are a couple of differentiators, right? Because as a user experience, there's two types of user experience, which you have nicely outlined, where software only and software or dongle. Now, the word dongle can be used for a lot of things in the AV world, right? So can you explain a little bit more what you mean by the word dongle in this kind of table for me, Parker?
Absolutely. So when we're thinking about what the user experience is with these wireless conferencing devices, all of them offer a software-based user experience where somebody has an application that's on their laptop and they're using that component. Barco and Crestron also offer the ability for you to have a little piece of hardware, small not so cumbersome and huge, that you might connect to a user's device, and then they can use that for the communication between their laptop and that base station in the room.
A dongle like this?
A dongle such as the one you're holding here. Since you're holding that one, I will hold this one, and we will now have effectively given equal.
We are now dongle
time.
brothers, Parker. Dongle brothers for life. Okay.
Yes.
So I get that experience. As a dongle brother, that's one experience. And the next experience is software, right? So as an end user, before I join a company, should I then download the software myself, or how does the software magically appear on my laptop that I now have for work?
Well, Sharath, the great thing would be if you were an end user in a corporate org, that your IT department would use their mobile device management platform to push that software out to your device so that you aren't the one who's responsible for installing it, because this is one of those things, just like you've got, Word, PowerPoint, and Teams out on your device so that you can do it. If wireless conferencing is the path that an organization wants to take, it's much better to have that centralized control so that you have versioning, updating, all that, so you're not leaving it to your end users. Because typically you are going to have requirements for administrative privileges when you're doing the installation, not necessarily for the session itself. And some of these companies have also come out with great experiences for a user that comes into the room and does not have administrative privileges and does not have the software installed already. So there are some nuances there of what you can do if you're that visitor who has no admin privileges. But just like any meeting room, if you're somebody who's coming in from outside the organization, you're not necessarily going to have 100% of the functionality that somebody inside the organization is going to have. That's just the nature of how all of these systems work.
So I guess,
and I did my best here. Oh,
yeah.
I just kicked my own, slide my own chair down. I did my best here on the right side too. I wanted to call out some of what I think are kind of like my favorite unique features of these different partners.
Dunbar's call out of the days. All right, everyone, ladies and gentlemen.
Diplomatic, the
non-Jabra call out, but the Parker Dunbar call outs of the day regarding each of these companies. And Parkitect, by all means, call them out.
I was going to say, and I won't force you to listen to me say them out, as you can also read them on the screen. You just take a picture of this later, care back to it for reference. But what I wanted kind of the takeaway to be here is that we at Jabra are partnering with these different companies that are all in the market. And our goal here is not to tell you this is the best one, it's the only one you should use, because there's just not a catch-all solution like that. So it's all about discovery. It's all about the questions that you ask your end customer, the experiences that you're looking towards, and the things that you're most focused on. So depending on what that is, one of these solutions might be better for you, and it might be not the right choice for somebody else.
Gotcha. So thanks for sharing that, man. That's actually kind of useful. So I guess now that we've talked about all of these solutions, one thing I wanted to do is do a demo with the unit that was sent to me by our good folks at Airtame. So shout out to Brian Drake. I know he was on camera earlier, so thank you very much for that. So I wanted to, there he is, my guy from Atlanta. So what I want to do is just quickly show the fact that you can join the call and the Airtame experience. As Parker mentioned, different, each has its pros and cons, and it's up to us as professionals or end users to contact these vendors and figure out if the solutions work for them. So as I stop sharing my screen, I have my laptop here. Here's my laptop, right? I'm going to stop presenting. On my laptop, what I have on my screen, on my laptop, is the Airtame app already downloaded. So when it comes to the Airtame app, I'm just going to show everyone what it looks like when you have it as an example. So this is the Airtame app that you're seeing. It's currently searching for the screens in my area. This is on a different network, so it's not seeing it. But this is what I have on my laptop itself. So what I'm going to do now is go into the Airtame app, and there's a button called Join Call. I'm using the Microsoft Teams link, and I'm joining the call through my laptop connecting to the Airtame. So as it's doing that, Parker, is there anything else? Because we talked about how slow my internet is. So
I was going to
please.
say, we talked about Sharath's slow internet, and this is always the trickiest part of the demo, coming from having done this a million times, because we've got to switch from Sharath was just talking to us to let's make sure Sharath doesn't get horrible echoes for us to have to listen to as he joins on the second device. So I'm going to give a little bit of filler here for a minute while he's doing that. Sharath is going through the process. Oh, Sharath, did we admit you? And because you're not, yeah. Oh, Sharath.
We
No
did
microphone?
admit him.
Okay.
He's on mute, but
Sharath, you're muted. I think you might be muted both times, no? You know, Sharath, you can never get away from the experience of forgetting to unmute yourself.
That is true. So, when it comes to
and Sharath, why do we hear some echoes from you? Just for the people who are listening, it's just because Sharath is in the same meeting with two different devices that don't know about each other at the same time. So Sharath, If you want to kill your P50 speaker maybe for a minute, just for everyone else.
Killing my P50 speaker. There you go.
And we still hear you crystal clear.
There you go. So now the idea behind it is I'm joined through to this meeting using a Microsoft Teams link, and it's using the device wirelessly. So here's my laptop, right? And then I'm as you can see in the video, here's my laptop, and I'm joining the meeting on the far end. And then I want to caveat that Parker and I Parker was making fun of my slow internet speeds in my house, so that's why it might seem a little pixelated on your end. But he was definitely shaming me on my speeds earlier today. But this is the experience that I wanted everyone to kind of understand, that if I'm coming into this space with a laptop, this is how I would join, and this is wirelessly connecting to the device. So, quick little demo. So before I guess we continue, I'm going to leave that call and come back to this. You can still hear me on this one, Parker?
I can still hear you on this one, yeah.
Okay, cool. So that was a quick demo, right? And like I said, that's the Airtame demo because that's the thing that was closest to me, and I was testing that earlier yesterday and this week. But Parker and I do have the Crestron Intermedia, I have the Immersive, Parker has Marco.
Hey, nepotism, I've got the screen beam right here. It's also ready to go on this laptop. But, at the end of the day, each of these devices are going to have a little bit of a different connection experience, a little bit of a different user experience. There's lots of differences on that technical back end. So instead of coming here, I think Sharath and I talked about this. We're like, we don't want to just show you join 5 different ways, get a feel for what the general user experience idea is. And then you can start figuring out what's the hardware platform that's the right choice for you.
Yeah, and I know you told me not to do this, but I thought it would be prudent to show everyone what the screen looks like when you walk into a room, but it probably looks terrible on your end.
No, I was going to say, it looks really good. It was nice because at first you had turned your camera off and then you moved it, but now you're just giving me a headache. So, I mean, that is what it is. I think we've got some great questions in the chat. Ken has a question here. He says, we've struggled to find a USB hub that sits between a BYOD endpoint and a room conferencing system where a single USB-C provides power, video, audio to the endpoint. Current Jabra hub doesn't provide power, so they're a preferred partner. This, I think, might be getting into a really unique what user experience are you trying to have? Because some of the hardware out there can provide you with a wireless conferencing user experience where you're just having that BYOD, that content share piece into the room. But some devices can also expand so that you can have a room meeting, room system, Zoom rooms, Teams rooms experience, and a wireless conferencing experience, and BYOD into your room system. That is definitely like its own, technically speaking, webinar. So there are solutions out there, and maybe you can follow up with us afterwards. Joe Dunbar is asking about how Sharath has bad internet. I blame Sharath's mesh network. I am not a mesh guy per se.
I know. Forget the mesh network, hardwired all the way, blah, blah,
You
blah.
don't even have to hardwire, just, like don't have your backbone be in such a way. So
no. This is the cheapest way, right? Facebook Marketplace, shout out to them, right?
Again, it's because you have a kid. Sharath, you have a daughter. What are you supposed to do?
So So just to kind of, Parker, review everything that we kind of talked about today, BYOD, user experience. If that makes sense, BYOD is good if all of your end users are used to using their laptops because they've been working from home for so long. And it might be a good solution as a funnel into standardizing with Teams or Zoom because you can always add that. Is that a true statement, Parker? Is that?
It's a great statement. Okay. I love
so
it.
BYOD is one term. Now the newer term is BYOM, bring your own meeting. So that is the idea behind, I have my laptop, but on my laptop I have Google Meet, I have Teams, I have Zoom, I have other providers, which I'm forgetting right now, that I might use at any time of the day because of everyone that I deal with. I can walk into a place and then have connect device USB, and now I can have a wireless meeting. And then the thing that we discussed most today was wireless conferencing, where we are now taking the experience of sharing your screen wirelessly to taking the experience of sharing the camera, audio, and video and audio in a one solution, and specifically with the Jabra P50, right, everyone? Jabra P50, Jabra P50, yay, yay, yay. So the idea behind that is user experience, right? Because we're coming into the office, there might be one, oh, Parker, we forgot to talk about technical anxiety.
Oh, this is true. We did. Well, I mean, this is a point near and dear to my heart. Because as an end user, if you're somebody who's going into a room and you don't know what the experience is going to be, because the experience is different from room to room, because maybe some rooms have one type of solution, some rooms have a different, some rooms have certain capabilities, other rooms don't. Having that kind of standard approach that you take as an organization so that when somebody comes in, not only do they have that same experience in all those different rooms, scaling from just BYOD content share to those BYOM spaces on the same platform, potentially leveraging some of the same management back end as well. These are all good things, but you've also got to think about the user's experience of, if I spent, 3 years working from home, getting really used to joining meetings from the client application, maybe joining meetings from the client application with a wireless connection to that peripheral makes sense for me. Maybe that's something that I'm more familiar with.
So the key point that I want to make sure everyone understands from this webinar is nothing to do with the word technical, but everything to do with the word experience, and which is user experience. We are all looking to solve the problem or give users the ability to do their job in the office or at home seamlessly. So user experience is the key takeaway from this whole call. But the idea also is we work with our partners as well. So now there's about 7 minutes left in here. I want to give the audience an opportunity to come off camera and off mute. Do we give them that ability? I don't know where to go.
I think, Josh, parent test.
Yeah.
Josh.
So
what can the audience do?
Many people are already on camera, which is awesome. Great to see you all. If there are questions, though, at this stage, I'm going to go ahead and throw our Q&A slide up. That's also got a link to a survey.
We're gonna start singing.
Let's say, let me get over to the right one here.
And I want to circle back at not quite the beginning, sort of, early middle of the call. We asked you, had you been on a call where people were using wireless technology to join the call? You've now, the 25% of you that said no, you can say, yes, I have been wireless the whole time. I am using the unapproved combination of my Evolve 265 Flex with USB dongle and my PanaCast-20 over here. But I have been wireless the whole call.
Pulled out the surprise at the end. What a reveal.
You're there you go. The ginger magician of the West, as I would say.
I just really like the movie The Prestige, so I was waiting for that moment.
But if you do have questions, throw the hand up. You guys have been awesome putting stuff in chat, and we've gotten to some of those. But you can definitely, or if you just want a chance to chime in and give Sharath and Parker a piece of your mind about what you had to sit through for the last hour.
Because at the end of the day, we're not. You might be more of an expert at something than I am, and that's perfectly fine. But Parker, what are, I guess, Josh, what are our next webinars? We don't have any questions coming up.
Yeah, I mean, while we're filling time, definitely pay attention to that QR code at the bottom, because we want to hear the unfiltered opinions of what you felt like you just witnessed here today. So throw those in there, give us feedback, let us know where to go from here. But coming up in the next in March, we're kind of continuing on the partner story. Tentatively, we are. There may be some shift. We're exploring a couple things, but the next session is geared toward mobile cart types of solutions, right? So where you're actually needing to take that room and attach it to a cart or some other solution, have the touch capacity on that cart. Pairing that with the PanaCast-50 VBS, our Android-based solution. So we're going to look at a couple solutions there. Again, tentatively, that's coming up at March 28th, I think, or 27th, one of those. And then into April, Parker, what are we going to do to kind of follow up on this topic?
I was going to say, if you joined this webinar and you were really hoping that we were going to talk about a certain BYOD feature that a big company has
like
been
Microsoft?
talking about. Yeah, like Microsoft, but maybe not necessarily.
Parker?
It might be Microsoft. In any case, remember how I said BYOD, BYOM? This is a distinction I want to be in the world, but is not necessarily happening. This is just like the embodiment of that. So coming up in April, we will be talking about this new Microsoft BYOD capability. We'll talk about what does it mean for an end user, what's their experience like in a room that has had this enabled, configured, done. And we will talk about what is it like as an administrator if you're trying to set this up and figure it out. What might you be able to sort of glean and take away at a business level? Why might you consider doing this? There's a licensed level and a free level. So what do you get if you go up to that licensed level? So if you were hoping we would talk about that and we totally blew you off and didn't, just know that you can come back in April to join that session. When
Beautiful.
That feature is supposed to be GA, not just in preview like it is now.
This is kind of this is like an alley-oop moment, right? Sharath, is that there we go. Okay.
I'm alley-ooping it because that's what we do. This is the buffer for the next one. So yeah, I want to make sure I thank everyone for joining us today. Hopefully you give a good review so that I can get a raise.
I was going to say, give us 5 stars, please. Please. And Andres, I saw your question about any update on release timeline for VP5. Is it still in Q1? I have not heard anything. Sharath, Josh, Michael, I saw Eric's not on the call. We can't just punt this question over to him in terms of do we have an update there?
No, I don't think we have a firm date. It is still settled for Q1 from my understanding. I think before we follow up, it's going through some QA testing with our internal teams. And no, we don't have an exact date when it's released, but it's still Q1 for VP5.
Wait, the caveat there, right? The asterisk, as Parker pointed out earlier, dates can slide, things can change a bit, so give some grace there if it needs to. Yeah, so that's still the plan. Any other last minute questions? If anyone want to throw their hand up, say anything. Huge thanks to Sharath and Parker. And again, please give that feedback. Their future at Jabra depends on a good feedback in this thing here. So
my 2 dogs really appreciate having a rented backyard and food.
That's awesome.
I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. Parker's on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with us online. We're more than happy to touch base. If you're going to be at Enterprise Connect next March, you'll find most of us there. So come see us in person. I can give you free bananas and oranges because that's what I can afford.
It looks like the support in the chat is overwhelmingly in your favor, fellas. So good news so far.
Yay! All right.
Thank you all for being here. Thanks for making this happen, guys. And we'll see you hopefully at the end of March, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Take care, everybody.